All right, okay, so we'll start off the agenda. Thanks everyone for coming. I know it's a special meeting, a little more than we normally do. So I appreciate it. And I will go straight to roll call. So this will be just the urban subcommittee, and just let me know if you're here. Don Harper.
Yes.
Jody Scott.
Yes.
Angel Marinich.
Yes.
Renee Razzo.
Yes.
Chris Mitchell. Don Rulis. And Greg. All right, so we do have a quorum because there's 7 total and we have 4, so that is just over half. So we will move on to number 2, public comment. This is, if you have any comments to say about 5310 or before we start. All right. So now we'll move on to number 3, which is the discussion of 5310 applications and recommendations of projects. Oh, I'm sorry, I realized. And number 1, I never acknowledged everyone else. So we also have Michael Bruner and Ray Lees and Gabe Guevara, which is, we're all kind of scattered around the office. So moving on to number 3, so discussion of 5310 applications and recommendations of projects. See Greg Cassidy. Welcome. So I am going to share my screen. One second. All right, welcome, that's fine. We're just about to start. Oh, I see Jim Bramner has joined us. Welcome. You guys are
Hey, thank you.
Perfect timing. Okay, so I sent you all a memo just recently, and that just explains what the purpose of 5310 is, and also the applications that we received, the call for projects, things like that. So the goal here is to hopefully select the projects to fund and how much to fund them. If we have remaining funds, we would decide how to move forward with those. As you all likely know at this point, 5310 is from the Federal Transit Administration. Tri-County receives funding, a possibility of funding, I should say, every year. It's up to us to allocate these funds, and so we chose to do that with a call for projects this year. We also have the option, instead of doing that, or in addition to it, we could pass the funds or some of them onto the Illinois Department of Transportation Consolidated Vehicle Procurement Program. So that's CVP. They're the ones who you can apply for the regular 310 funds specifically for vehicles. So this 5310 pot of money is for urban areas, and this one, as we're talking about now, does not cover vehicles, but the CVP program does. So just to let everyone know how that works. So we did put out a call for projects. As many of you know, we received 4 applications, so I'll quickly summarize them. The City of East Peoria requested $25,600 in federal funding with a local share of $6,400 for a capital project to build a sidewalk to close a gap near a bus stop. So there was no sidewalk there, and they're just asking to complete that section. The Greater Peoria Mass Transit District submitted 2. So one of them is to extend transit service to Washington. So currently there's really no service in Washington. There are some, there's one for seniors currently, but they're hoping to provide more options. So GPMT is requesting $400,000 in federal funds to utilize their City Lift ADA paratransit services within Washington specifically. They included 2 phases. The first phase is $100,000, and this is 50-50 funding. So this would be $100,000 federal, supported by another $100,000 locally. And then they also have a phase 2 option. So your GPMTD also requested funds for a bike share program in Peoria. There used to be a bike share program here, but it does not exist anymore. So this is funds to potentially bring that back. They're requesting $95,000 in federal funds to for a mobility management project, and that is 80/20. And then so like I said, we'll relaunch the bike share program for 2 years. And finally, EPIC requested vehicles. And like I said, unfortunately, we can't focus on this one for this pot of funding because this 5310 urban fund does not apply to vehicles. So there's other ways to do that. It's through the state CVP program. And we're keeping an eye out about when that comes out. I keep hearing from Zoe from IDOT. She's the head of the CVP program, and she says that they're working to put it out soon. Kind of vague, but that's at the top of their priority list. So moving to the actual funds requested, it looks like when we combine all of them, the applications are asking for a total of $520,824. Oh, I see a caller has arrived. Is that Chris Mitchell?
Yes, it is, Chris. I'm sorry to be late.
All right, welcome. That's fine. I'm just going through this memo that I sent before. So
yes,
we received over $500,000 in applications. We unfortunately cannot fund all of that. There's a total of just over $300,000 available, and it's actually 4 different smaller pots of funding. So this has gotten a little bit complicated, but we still are able to allocate this up to this much. So after all that, I wanted to give that summary because this is not always clear. So just wanted to get on a level playing field. All right. So this part that you're looking at now, and if you're on the phone, I will describe all of this so you won't miss anything. But there is another part of this memo that I just expanded on today. Like I wrote this morning, so I decided to share it during the meeting. Tri-County staff has read and evaluated all of the applications, and we have come up with recommendations. This is, after I'm done talking, I will ask for comments from everyone, so this is not set in stone. This is just what we have come up with based on our evaluation process. So, after reading through everyone's applications, we have recommended that we'd like to fund the federal portion of all eligible projects, plus the local portion of the East Peoria project. So what does that mean in funding terms? So we have a chart here. I will go through it because it's kind of hard to understand with all the numbers. So what we're looking at is Washington Phase 1. Remember I said that one had 2 phases. You could look on the right column here, the total. So we're suggesting to fund all of Washington's Phase 1. And for the bike share, we have also suggested to fund all of the bike share. So Washington was $100,000, bike share is $95,000. For East Peoria, that's the only one that we were able to potentially fund 100% of. So these COVID relief funds, there are two options, it's ARP and CRISA. So they both offer almost $44,000. And the thing with those is that we can't really if we want to fund 100% of something, we basically have up to 44,000 times 2 to fund up to 100%. So the other projects were too high to potentially fund up to 100% of. That's kind of confusing, but what we found here is that we're able to fund all of East Peoria, and really the local part of the East Peoria funding was just under $7,000. So that was, we felt low enough to just be able to add that to the total. So the total for our recommended way forward is $227,224.80. We do have remaining if we choose to go this route. So remember I said there's just over 316,000 available. Well, with this route, we have about 90,000 still available. So I'll go through what that means, what we could do with it, and then I will open it up to comments and discussion. So this is the last part here. So if we go this route, then there will be these funds remaining. We could opt to give the remaining funds to IDOT, and they can use this in the CBP program. That doesn't mean we are giving them up. That means we're just putting them in a different pot of money. So it just takes them away from what we have here, but adds them to a different option. So this is the vehicle funding program. That's one option.
Would that then stay local? Would that stay with our area, or does that go to the state being allowed to decide where that goes?
That goes to the state. So we wouldn't be able to guarantee that it's local. That's the one thing that we would kind of, I don't want to say give up because it's still public funds, but you're correct that it would be, as to my knowledge, it will just go to the state itself. Yeah. So we could also, as a second option, find a portion of Washington's Phase 2 project. And that is an option, although it would be just a small amount for them, and they would have to look for a local funds with that. We could, option 3, roll it over into next year and combine it with the upcoming federal fiscal year 2022 funds. So as you can see this year, or with this call for projects, we combined 2 years worth of FTA appropriations. So we can do that. If we have remaining fiscal year 2021 funds, we can combine them with next year's. We unfortunately don't know how much we will get. However, in the past 2 years, we've gotten 113,000 and 114,000 respectively per year. So I would guess it's somewhere around that number, and we would add that to this 89,000 number. And we would put out another call for projects in the spring. So those are the main 3 options that we came up with. If you all have another idea, I'm definitely open to it. So I can stop talking now and allow for other comments. Again, we don't have to go this route, but this was the way that we decided to potentially fund everyone. So what does everyone think?
Rima?
Yes.
Jim Bremner here. I had a question. I'm not really well versed in the grant process, so consider that when I'm asking this, but it looks like the grant for 2022 coming up is in the spring rather than the current one that's this fall. Is that typical where they'll go spring to fall, or is it twice a year, or what?
So in the past, I believe that it is normally in the spring, although there's a big asterisk. So the last time that Tri-County has done this call for projects was in 2017, so it's been a few years. And so it is up to us, Tri-County, when we put out the call for projects. The Federal Transit Administration has a recommended schedule, and that is in the spring and summer, basically. This time we decided to, since we have extra COVID funds, we decided to just do it in the fall. We don't want to wait till the spring. So that would be kind of up to Tri-County and the HSTP committee to see what is preferable.
Well, from my selfish perspective, considering Washington and not to get in anybody else's way, my preference would be to let it roll over to the 89,000, to let it roll over to the spring offering, and then maybe we might have some extra help, part of that 113, 114, if that's the number that is typical. So then you'd have a couple of 100,000 to spread. And that's just my thought from our perspective, but however everybody feels is fine. When you say a call for projects in the spring, and now, like say, we're in the fall one now, but the typical award won't be until late 21 or early 22 is when the funds actually start rolling. What would be the scenario for the spring funds? When would they actually be awarded or start rolling into the entities to support a program?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe, I'm not going to 100% answer this because I don't want to tell you the wrong date. I want to say the summer, but it's unclear. Really, I'll have a better answer after we receive funds for this call for projects, because that would give me an idea of how long it takes after we submit the application to the Federal Transit Administration, if it's a couple months, if it's a little longer. So that's a little bit of a non-answer. I haven't done this in a few years. I can't look back too far and really have a good answer.
Okay. And I was thinking, obviously our project was turned in by Greater Peoria Mass Transit, and we might be able to modify our offerings in the spring to be more to fit that grant better. Whether we have to lower our, it's a substantial amount of money for a full year operation. I think it was 400,000, and whether or not we can accumulate enough funds locally to support that. Maybe we'd have to change the project itself so that we could afford it, make it affordable and still serviceable, still meet the needs of the public. So that's just something for us to think about. But I wanted to bring that up so that it didn't sound like we were going to hog the whole amount. If that happened, we would try to work with everybody's interest of what we needed.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rima, this is Ray. Just a question about the COVID relief funds. I presume that they're going to end, right? They're finite. They're not going to be continued on it anyway. Or do you have any information on that?
Yes, that's a good question. I meant to look this up before today, and you got me. One of them does have an end date. I don't believe it's close, but all of the guidance that we've received from the state says to use up the COVID funds as soon as possible. That's part of the reason why we wanted to just get a move on this process and just use up our COVID funds. I am not sure if we'll get more in the future. That's a big question mark. I would guess probably not. I hope so, because COVID is not fully done. But yes, so that's a reasoning for why we decided to use up all of the COVID funds first. I believe that one of them doesn't have an end date, but I'd rather just get them through now and be able to see them out in projects.
Okay, thanks.
So one thing to note, again, I don't want to monopolize the time here necessarily, for the bike share project, that one did not have an identified local cost share, but we decided that we have the funds to pay for the federal part of it. So we decided to include that anyway.
And I guess, Rima, another question on the bike share. Since this a facsimile of the bike share, and it's not facsimile, the Convention Visitors Bureau a couple of years ago tried to get the bike share, a template for bike share in the region and established, and they had some bikes outside of City Hall and whatnot. Is there a regional kind of perspective on that initiative that could make the that activity an established base from which then we can grow as a region and add to that? Because that's all about the usage of the network that's available to get that kind of a program going.
Well, I think I would hand it over. I see that Doug Rolfs is on the phone. I don't mean to call you out, but if you have an answer to that, I don't know much more than what was written in the application.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this would start out to be just a downtown Peoria type bike share. Basically, that's who is sponsoring the project, and come up with a local share would be the Visitor Bureau and Peoria Bike Club, whatever they're called. They're the ones that came to me with this project. First Trans actually does some of this in other cities, so that's how we kind of got connected together. My biggest thing with this bike share is there's an app that I want to get a hold of, and eventually we'd make it Ride Peoria app, and we'd tie buses and bikes and everything to it. So that's kind of why I've got skin in this game. But local share is going to come from the downtown, and then we could eventually expand it if needed, if we can get this thing to take off. So.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. I guess that was answer my question relative to some of the other stakeholders that are in this space with the Convention Bureau and Bike Peoria and whatnot. So thanks for that response.
Yeah, we actually put in for 15. Bike Peoria has taken over the old bikes and tried to repurpose them, and then the person that we're working with is from the company that was running the system before, so they can get in and unlock all the old bikes, and then we're actually purchasing 15 new bikes and I think 5 to 10 bike racks, so we could expand it if the need arises.
I still have the City Cycle water bottle here from the previous iteration of that.
Does anyone have comments, let's say, about the projects that we chose or we're considering choosing? Do you feel that it's fair to utilize a little bit of everyone, basically? Is that a good move forward, or do you have other suggestions?
But looks like you put a lot of thought into it, and I'd be very hesitant to disagree with folks that this is what your job is. So it seems fair, and they all seem appropriate.
I agree.
And this is Jody from Advocates, and I agree with the suggestion to roll over the funds into the next year and combine it as well. That was mentioned earlier, but all the projects, you guys put a lot of thought into it, like the other gentleman just said. So I would be in agreement for that.
And I also agree that rolling it over would be probably the best course of action.
I also agree.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
This is Doug. I'm going to abstain from any voting for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Appreciate it. All right. Well, does anyone have further questions? I know these are a whole lot of numbers that you're looking at here. It was I had to do some math to split these up basically, but in the end, they will come out to be hopefully clean and nice with what the total column shows. I will say one more thing just to let everyone know what the process is. So as you know, we had the call for projects. We're currently in the evaluation phase. If this moves forward as is, then we will take it to our technical committee meeting. So the Tri-County Technical Committee meeting is next Wednesday morning, and that will be on the agenda as an action item. So I would give our case here, and they would hopefully recommend it to the commission meeting. And our commission meeting is in early November, and hopefully they would also move it forward. So after that, it will then be our job to actually apply for these funds. So I've been saying this whole time, Tri-County receives these funds. The way that it works is that we still have to go through online and apply through the Federal Transit Administration, because we do our best to make things fit into the correct box, that they're all applicable to the program, but the FTA has the final say on that. So if they find some issue, I hope not. We're doing all the research to make sure that but they will choose to approve or deny them. But hopefully then we will be able to move forward and then actually allocate the funds, and then these funds will be available to each of these entities. So it's a lot of kind of jumping through hoops, but it's worth it if we can, increase the mobility in the region. All right, well, I believe now to move forward, since I am not part of the urban subcommittee, we would need someone to make a motion to recommend the projects as they stand and roll over the remaining funds into next year's call for projects.
So moved.
And I second.
All right. And Jody. All right, so I'm gonna do a roll call vote just since we're all virtual today. So I'll go down my list of names. You could say aye or nay. Don Harper,
Yes.
Jody Scott,
Yes.
Angel Marinich,
Yes.
Renee Razzo, I'm not hearing you. Renee Razzo,
Yes.
there we go. Chris Mitchell,
Yes.
Greg Cassidy.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you everyone for that. I appreciate all your discussion. And I'll ask just one more time if there are any other comments or questions. All right, I will call that done. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 4, which is adjourn. Since we have a voting item here, I'll ask for a motion, please, to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you everyone so much for your help.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
All right. One less thing to worry about.
Perfect.